During your lifetime, you'll produce enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools. Spit out this bit of information at your next pool party. Here's Mike Winters.
Spit away. Good morning. It is 19 minutes after 8 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning, Chaves County Manager Bill Williams back with us. Good morning.
Good morning. I really love those little tidbits of, you're a veritable cesspool of useless information, but those are great. I love them.
Hey, I'm hoping people, make friends talking over those things.
Talking over spitting their pool full.
That's right. Because if you can share that information with each other, that's a friendship that'll last a long time. Oh, man. Well, in case folks aren't aware, the Chaves County Commission did meet yesterday, as they do. I know normally they...
it's the third Thursday of the month normally, but we've had quite a few that are going to have to change this spring. So
meetings and what have you,
right.
and different events.
Next month, we're going to be a week early, so the April meeting will be the second Thursday. And then May, June, and July will all be a week later. So I guess the fourth Thursday of the month. And then we hope we're back on track for the rest of the year. But it varies some. And then we have a special commission meeting on Monday, kind of a joint meeting with commissioners and managers from Otero, Eddy, Lincoln, and Chaves.
Okay.
And we're all kind of in I don't want to say a battle, but the Lincoln National Forest, the Forest Service, chose to plan for their next 10 to 15 years of operations, and they didn't include the local governments, which they're required by law to do. And so we found out literally towards the end of the process.
So now you're going to have to go and legal up here a little bit?
We've asked them, how can you do an environmental impact statement if you didn't take into account what Chaves County has in their land use plan, for one? And your law or your rules require that you coordinate with local governments, and there was no coordination with any of us. If the ranchers hadn't come to us and said they're getting ready to turn our cattle leases into wilderness areas that no one can really utilize, can't cut down the trees or the undergrowth or anything else, it can create more forest fires. All those kind of things they told us about.
But they're good stewards of the land,
And they, so we're having a meeting. We've kind of grouped up, and all of us have passed resolutions opposing their plan, and we're working towards getting some resolution and some inclusion in the planning process. We understand they have to manage their forest and all that. That's fine, but
we should be at the table,
We should be at the table, and there are certain criteria before you develop wilderness areas and stuff. And if they didn't meet the level of wilderness from 1978 when they inventoried all of these, what made them more pristine in the last 50 years? Was it the water line that went through to feed and water the cows? Was it the stock tank? Was it the community water supply? One of their areas that they wanted to do a wilderness, wilderness characteristic thing, another agency, literally had overhead power lines, satellite dishes, a gas line that ran through there. It's like, how is this wilderness?
Right.
And there was a road.
Looks pretty developed to me.
A county road right there, a paved county road. And we asked someone from the Department of Interior on that particular one, says, how can you count this as wilderness area? He turned around and faced the other side of the road and says, we just look this direction. And it's like, yes, but you're including,
right, this part that's not wilderness.
6,000 acres on the other side of the road. How can you do that when, and that's why we try to get involved and try to look
the
out.
ostrich play.
And currently in Chaves County, and the other counties are higher amounts. I don't know about Eddy County. I'm not sure what their percentage of non-private lands there are. But in Chaves County, 60% of Chaves County is either state or federally owned lands.
Wow.
So only 40% of it's
ours
to use and to benefit from. And of course, there are, like I say, grazing permits and things of that nature on state and federal lands. But when you do things like create wilderness, that's gone.
That's all useless land to everybody.
There's no food, fiber, or minerals extraction, anything like that coming off of these lands once they turn them into wilderness areas.
Yeah.
And so, we really like to take a good hard look at that, and we'll be doing that on Monday.
Well, and I would argue, too, that the definition of wilderness and things like that, these are pretty rural. It's like I don't... Like, I get they're trying to say they don't want to put a shopping mall here. I get that. But, come on. Do you really think they're ever going to put a shopping mall in anywhere of these places we're talking about? These are very desolate, remote, that are really only good for farming and ranching.
Well,
type stuff.
multiple uses is really the best use of most of the land. The reason there's so much federal land out west is that they had the Homestead Act. They couldn't get people to settle out west, and so they, offered people 160 acres if you could stay there for 5 years. Well, some of the most desolate land in the west, Nevada, the state is something like 90% federal lands or something. I mean, it's a huge number.
Sure.
It's because people couldn't make a living there. They couldn't eke out. You can't farm in the middle of the
land
Nevada
ain't good
desert
for anything. Yeah.
And so that's where a lot of the BLM land has come from. People either didn't even try to farm it, or it went back to them, and they ended up having this huge excess.
So
land.
a lot of it's just unclaimed parcels,
unclaimed
basically.
lands, and lands that are very difficult to make a living on, and so turning them into wilderness areas doesn't help. Let's let people utilize them for the good of our communities, and also we don't get taxes on those. We get a payment in lieu of taxes, which they decide what that amount is. It's a lesser amount than what it would be taxed at if it were private, and that's just not right.
Yeah.
So we really pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Not to mention, like you said earlier, when they turned it into these like wilderness things, they basically get man's hand out of it, which I understand that, but when you got humans living nearby, and then when the lightning strikes and causes there's stewardship of these wilderness areas, and we like that owl back when they were talking about the reason that owl started hanging out at Walmart's because they made the natural like wilderness areas, and they got so thick they couldn't hunt in the grounds anymore and stuff because they weren't so. In actuality, it's probably better that we do have a human influence in there just a little bit, at least to keep the wildfires from going crazy and clearing and unnecessary growth
in forest areas, definitely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, to be considered a wilderness area, I believe in all the federal agencies, it has to have a minimum of 5,000 acres. And you can't take any motorized vehicles in there. Some of them have perimeter roads so they can drive around the outside, but you cannot go on the interior with fire or ATVs or anything else. Now, you can ride your horse in there in a lot of places, but they've gotten to where some of these large tracts, 50,000 acres or whatever, that they're starting to not allow, like the outfitters, they'll load up their mules and their horses and take hunters in there well into the interior to do their hunting, which is great.
Yeah.
But they have to graze those horses. Well, now they've started revoking grazing permits from outfitters in some of these large places and saying, sorry, you can't. Well, how are we going to
feed them?
Well, you have to haul it in. Well, if we pack the hay in, we can't pack in our other supplies. And
And I got to bring in more horses to bring more food.
It's not a perpetual motion machine. They can't carry enough to feed themselves and get back out. So, it's just kind of crazy. But that's kind of some of the things that we feel the government is doing, overreach, that, locks up these lands where they can't be used by the hunters efficiently.
Sure.
You can go to the edge, but, what happens when you start hunting the deer or whatever?
Sure, the animals go where they can.
They go to where they can
Why
hide.
do you think when you go to Ruidoso and you go up in the mountains and you see all these deer hanging out in people's neighborhoods? Because they know they're safe there. You can't go hunting through those neighborhoods.
We've got to find the right balance, and that's why Chaves County has a land use plan so that we can find that balance. So there are plenty of places for people to hunt. There are places to graze cattle. There are opportunities for oil and gas extraction or other minerals that come off of lands. And a lot of the other counties around don't actually have a plan in place. And so when the government does come in and say, we're planning on doing X, Y, or Z, they don't have a plan that says, oh, wait a minute, we've evaluated this.
And so it's
within our community, and we feel this is not a compatible use.
So they're
and
not
then
standing up to that.
So Chaves County Commission several years ago did that, and they're well ahead of the game, and that's the way you have to do it. We were successful with 3 counties in the U.S., I believe, about 8 or 10 years ago, stopping a BLM initiative called BLM 2.0. It was Chaves County, New Mexico, Garfield, Colorado, and I'm not sure, maybe Lawrence or Logan, South Dakota County. I don't recall which 3 were involved in that suit, but
we were one of them.
But we were one of the 3 that stopped them from overreaching, and they had to retract what they were doing and went back to kind of the way they had been managing things. So there's a lot of planning and oversight that are on the local county level that our county commissioners do. They have a lot more issues they have to deal with than people realize in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's really fending off the wolves literally in some of these cases here. But
anyway, that meeting's on Monday at 2 o'clock.
So they're going to basically uniting the front there and getting ready for battle.
And the Forest Service is going to come and try to answer some questions for us. How'd you get to where you're at? How do we move forward together?
So do you think at the end of the day that they'll make a decision one way or another at that meeting whether they're going to reassess and let you in, or you will have an answer at that point?
I don't think that they have the authority to answer. I think that they're going to have to kick it up the chain, and they're going to say, yeah, they caught us. We didn't follow the rules.
Gotcha.
And I think they're going to have to go back and redo a portion of these things first.
Okay.
And get buy-in. At the very least, I think they have to redo the environmental impact statement because they didn't take into account any of the local issues. And that's what an environmental impact statement is supposed to do.
Sure.
So,
but somebody got a report filled out in D.C. on time, so made it.
They did.
They kept their job.
They tried to push those things through. So, real quick before we go on with the agenda, I wanted to bring up. I'm going to start trying to report to you what's going on the courthouse lawn.
Okay.
And I didn't check the calendar real close, but I know that we have the Cinco de Mayo celebration starting on the 6 de Mayo. So the 6th, 7th, and 8th of May will be the Cinco de Mayo celebration at the courthouse lawn.
Very cool.
And, of course, they'll have 4th and 5th Street blocked off. Now, in conjunction with that, it's a separate event, but going on at the same time, so there's plenty for people to do. Mm-hmm. The Pecos Valley Vintage Car Club is going to be having their annual car show.
Okay.
Which this is their 46th annual car show.
Cool.
And they have it on Mother's Day because why would, on the Mother's Day weekend, because what better surprise for mom than to take dad to a car show?
That's right. Get them out of your hair, maybe? Yeah, maybe that's the logic. I don't know.
It's their 46th one, and they will actually be in the parking lot behind the courthouse.
Okay.
So on Virginia Street.
So all the parking that normally most people use the courthouse, that's
on the weekends, that's not used, and that's a perfect place. They have
it's pretty big there, so they can put a lot of cars.
Yeah, they can put a lot of cars there, and there's plenty of access. It's not a really busy street, so people will be able to cross if they need to.
Sure.
There's other parking up and down the street they can get to.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're going to have to come in off of Virginia Street, off 2nd, or come down 3rd Street or 6th Street, because 4th and 5th will be closed. But the people that are coming to see the Cinco de Mayo celebration and do those events, they'll have that. Plus, they can walk, right around the courthouse, and there's a big car show.
Yeah.
It's a good-sized car show, too. So they'll be able to do that. The people that go to the car shows, hey, as long as we're parked, let's go check out what's going on at Cinco de Mayo. So it's a pretty good,
little family weekend hangout.
Yeah, kind of a good thing. So anyway, I know that's coming up, and I'm going to try to start letting people know what's happening at the courthouse lawn.
Perfect.
Because we have a lot of really good events. We have Main Street Roswell does many things at the courthouse lawn.
First Fridays, of course,
First Fridays on Main Street. Plus, they also have the farmers markets every year.
They'll be gearing that up here.
That'll be coming soon.
Usually around May time frame, I think.
Coming to a courthouse near you. But anyway, so we're going to try to start reporting on kind of that kind of stuff
that's
going on, so people
applications you're getting for use of that lawn there. So very cool. Good deal. So, yes, the county commission meeting did meet yesterday. What was it, a pretty busy agenda or fairly light, somewhere in between?
Well, it was busier for Mac than me. Last month, it seemed like I did 90% of the stuff. They were so sick and tired of hearing me. This month, I had a very light part. But Mac, because he was working with the road hearing stuff, he took the freeholders out to look at the roads. As I say, we get
the annual tour of the county.
Well, this year there were only 7 roads, and they're all real close into town.
So you didn't have to venture too far out.
They stretched it, I think, and made a half a day out of it. But we want to thank the freeholders. Let me think of who they were. Well, I can't remember right off the top of my head which 3 that I can remember 2, and I'm trying to remember which one third. Maybe I'll come back to that. But
sure.
Anyway, we get 3 people from the community that are not in any way associated with the roads, and try to get.
They don't have a dog in that fight, basically.
Right, and try to get a variety of people. So there's people who hunt, there are people who do agriculture, there are people who live in town, so that we kind of get a full opinion of.
They don't have a dog in the fight, but understand the needs of those roads.
Right,
gotcha.
and a good diverse cross section of the community. There's just 3 of them, and all they do is they go out and look at the roads the same way the commissioners do. Look at our road policy and say yes, it meets the criteria, or we would recommend the county taking this road on if they bring it up to the county standard, those kind of things. And that's what they did this week. So
were they looking at more roads that they want to turn into county roads, or ones they want to abandon as county roads, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. And there were no status changes. There's also a third category where it's a non-county maintained road. The county already has the right of way, but people would like it to become a county maintained road.
Gotcha.
And actually, we do have some of those. We have 4, I believe, of those out near Buena Vita.
Okay.
Started to say Buena Suerte because that's where I live. But anyway, out near Buena Vita, there's some non-county maintained roads that when they developed that subdivision, they dedicated the roads to the use and the benefit of the public, and the commissioners accepted them.
Okay.
And so those are our right-of-ways. But they've had enough growth and new houses and stuff, then they want to bring the roads up to our standards. I mean, it's their responsibility to bring the gravel in, do the ditches, make sure everything's right.
But once it's done, then
then the county will take it over.
Okay, very good. And that's always been the rule, by the way.
Right.
If you want the county to adopt a road, then you got to bring it up to code, and then once that's done, then they'll take it on. They're not going to build it up to that point. That's on you.
Yeah, that's entirely on you. So anyway, they have some roads, and every year they have. Well, I don't know about every year, but often they have 1 or 2 roads because, like I say, they're developing out there, and they want to make sure that the people that buy have every ability to get in.
Sometimes and things, and so there's a need for this.
So there's that. There were 3 roads that only benefit certain people and not really the community, and so landowners on either side have the authorization or the ability to apply for that road to be vacated or closed. And there's 2 of them up north of town, a subdivision that the roads go right through where the houses are and stuff. It's kind of a weird thing. There are main roads to get in there, but then those secondary roads were never really developed, but they're on the map. And they're saying, look, we want to build our house. We own all the lots across here, and the road goes right through the middle of where we want to put the house. So,
Gotcha.
So we're asking if we can vacate, and it doesn't affect any of the other neighborhoods.
Sure.
So that's the kind of thing.
Perfect reason to do it then. Yeah.
And another thing that MAC did kind of at the same time, and I used to do this every year, once a year we have to turn in our certified road mileage to the state of New Mexico for funding purposes.
Okay.
So Chaves County has 1,387.83 miles this year.
All right.
It's down about a mile from last year because we lost a couple of roads. We also gained a couple of roads in the road hearing process last year. So,
but it all balanced out in about a mile or 2 less than last year.
Yeah, about a mile less is what MAC says. So he has to present that report. The commission has to approve it, and then we have to get it to Santa Fe by April the 30th.
Okay.
And then they will send out some of their crews to verify some of these things, kind of spot checks. Says, okay, you said that you had whatever road goes from here to here, and we're out here now looking, and does it end there or does it end there? We've had them call us because they're not, there's roads out everywhere. It's a big county, 6,000 square mile county. So there's roads everywhere. And they do a little spot check and make sure that works. So
very good.
We also turned in the retirement paperwork for the volunteer firemen as they work each year. They document that they've worked, and they get a small stipend if they should retire from the fire department after so many years. So
that's a good thing. And things.
But every year we have to go through and make sure that we have all of that in place.
Gotcha. So the numbers are accurate when they do retire. Gotcha.
So anyway, we started out, though, with a special use permit for a second residence on a piece of property. As you know, there's requirements that you can only have one home except for special circumstances. And this particular family felt the need to take care of the mother. And the mother was there and said, I really would like them to help take care of me. So it was already heard at the Planning and Zoning Committee. They agreed that this should move forward, that these people had a real need. And there's stipulations and findings of fact. We found out it's here, and they're going to put in a second septic tank. Those conditions have to all be met. And if they don't, then, they revoke that special use permit.
Sure.
But anyway, the Planning and Zoning Committee said, that's great. They sent it back forward, and the commissioners listened to the same story and says, we see the need for this. So,
gotcha. Okay.
So, there are ways. If there's something that's contrary to the zoning, just go through the process, and usually there's a workaround.
Gotcha.
If it's a legitimate need, there can be a workaround, but at the same time, they have to make sure that people aren't just, hauling cars out and demolishing them and bringing in travel trailers and
Sure.
That are not hooked up to septic systems and dumping sewage on the ground, and there's a lot of that.
It's in place so people don't abuse and,
Right.
and in essence do things that could be harmful to others in the area. So.
Right, and we actually had a group of people came out yesterday, waited patiently till the end of the meeting so they could talk on unscheduled communications and let us know about a situation in their neighborhood where there are people burning stuff out in the middle of the night. Smoke seems to always be hanging. I guess they're burning off wire. I don't know for sure what they're doing, but fire department shows up at 2:00 in the morning to put out their blazes. There seems to be no septic systems hooked to travel trailers that they're living in. Cars are being brought out there and demolished, and so they came and asked for some help to try to take care of that. So the sheriff, the commissioners, the planning and zoning people, everybody's on the same page that we need to protect property rights when people are doing illegal things.
Yeah,
we're
all about freedom and live and let live,
Right.
but at the same time, if you're
Exactly.
abusing that and impacting other people's lives, then we need to step in. And
No,
do
there are
something about
definitely situations and places where people have cars and things that are done appropriately, and,
Sure.
and that's fine. It's when people are doing things like, say, burning stuff in the middle of the night. It's always smoky, firemen coming. There's a lot of disturbance there, and that's what we need to try.
And if you know
to
it's
take care
shady,
of.
they're doing it at night because they know it's shady, and they think no one will see it. It's like so report that stuff if you see it too.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're limited in a lot of ways. We don't have as much teeth as we'd like in some situations, but in many there are ways to take care of the issue.
Yeah, it's just being good stewards and being good neighbors, and that's all you guys are just asking and enforcing that basically.
So we did a deletion of property and proposed disposition. We just finished our asset management. Every year we have to do an inventory of everything that belongs to the county, and it's very elaborate, very time-consuming. Every department has to really dig and find stuff.
A lot of minutia.
If you don't find it, you have to do a lot of paperwork to show that it disappeared or you sold it or whatever the situation is.
Yeah, it wasn't procured or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's a long process that usually starts right after the year turns over, the new calendar year.
Okay.
And once that's done, then the finance department will ask for deletion of property records, things that people say, oh, we don't need this anymore, so here's the sheet for it, or this was lost, or that kind of thing, or we're going to transfer to another department. So those things, they take it before the commission. The commission looks over the list and says, okay, this is fine. But if they see something like a vehicle missing, something huge, they're going to get
That's
the
going to be a red
answers.
flag raised.
Yeah,
It's like,
but
hey.
these are usually small things, small tools or something that get misplaced, or
Or
we've had
break
things
and never
we've
got
had things
reported.
taken out of the back of the pickup, and so when that happens, we have to adjust our.
You probably have a good idea when something's just either a maintenance, something broke or something wasn't done, versus someone's trying to steal government property.
Well, and a lot of times, tools and stuff break, and the guys don't really think about it, but that's on property. Every tool that we buy is on the property list because you don't want people stealing tools.
Right.
If it's a consumable item, welding rods, that kind of thing, you don't put a property tag on those, obviously, because they're gone when you finish the welding job. But if it's the welder, welder's probably a bad example, but if it's some sort of a tool that you use and it breaks, a lot of times the guys don't think about, this is a $50 saw, and it's broken, so I throw it in the trash
Dump
can.
it.
Well, then come along inventory time, we realize that saw's missing, and they say, where's that saw? Who saw it last? Oh, I threw that away last spring when it broke. Well, we can write up the paperwork and see, but we, like you say, there's nothing large there. It's just a check where we make sure that the county's doing what they need to do and that our employees are doing what they need to do. There's lots of checks and balances.
But if we went to the road department and said, why is there 3 pickup trucks missing? Then they were like, all right, now this is
there's an issue. Yeah. So we had 2 appointments yesterday. One of them was done by the clerk's office, and that was the appointment to the County Board of Registration.
Okay.
So and I'm not sure how many members they have on that board, but they appoint people every so often to meet certain criteria to help them oversee elections and the registration of people, voting, and exactly what they do. Next time you have Cindy Fuller in, I know she can tell you everything about it. But they actually put forth a name, and the commissioners approved that.
Okay.
I put forth one for the Assessors Office, appointment to the County Valuation Protest Board. So every year when you get your tax bill, there's a window, if you disagree with your tax bill, that you can protest it, and they'll set up an appointment, talk to you about how your taxes were developed and how they came to that number.
Okay.
If you disagree, then you can go before the County Valuation Protest Board. Again, kind of like the freeholders, they're individuals from outside in the county that don't have a dog in the fight,
Right.
that are there to look at it with a fresh set of eyes and say, this is right, this is wrong. I see what the county did, or whether that's right or wrong. I see what the county did. Boy, you need to straighten that up. I agree with this person. Or I see what the county did. What you're taxed on is this, and
Gotcha.
whether you see it or not, but it's another fresh set of eyes to make sure that we're honestly and fair.
Independent. They just want to get it right. They're not siding, where the government's right, or they just want to know what the law says and was it applied correctly.
So we appointed 2 members to that board, and also by the statute it requires that we have 2 alternates in case they're not available. So there are 4 people who were approved for that, and the commissioners approved that.
Very good.
5-0. So
how busy are those? Is it pretty common that or is it?
They usually, I'm guessing they have 4 or 5 protests a year.
Okay.
Usually,
so nothing major.
Usually when people call in with a protest, they end up talking to the assessor, and she can visit with them, get the proper information from her staff, and find out exactly how they came to that. And once it's explained, people understand, okay, I see how you got it.
Sure.
And so most of them go away. But there are 2, 3, 5, every year that don't get the resolution they want, so they would like someone else to hear it.
Sure.
And it's a fair method, and sometimes it works in the person's favor, and sometimes it doesn't.
Sure.
Because they are looking at it,
Just the facts, ma'am.
Yep. So that's a good system and a good setup. So
good deal.
Happy that they did that. Let's see what else we got. We did some RFPs. We approved 2 RFPs yesterday. One for a design professional or an architect to help us design the new space for the Pecos Valley Regional Communication Center.
Okay.
We are well along the process of putting bathrooms in what's known as Area D at the county. That's where they have the early voting. Generally, this time at the municipal election, they moved it to another location because construction was going on. But that part of the county building doesn't have any bathrooms. It's totally separate from the rest of the building. They built it as an alternate when they built the county building, so that when they remodeled the courthouse, the judges could put their chambers in there.
Okay.
But there were no bathrooms. When the judges were there, they had portable bathrooms outside people could use. The judges used another building we owned adjacent to the county building for their offices, but they just did court in there. So after the courthouse was remodeled, the judges moved back to the courthouse. That has been a large area with no bathrooms, can't really utilize it for anything. And so we've started working on this about 6 years ago, getting a design taken care of, coming up with the funding, and we've added bathrooms. We're going to change the entrance so you no longer have to run around the end of the building and come through the two doors on the side. There's going to be an actual entrance adjacent to the parking lot.
Okay.
You'll come in, there'll be 2 new large bathrooms, and then that area can be used for voting, like it has been, or we can find other uses for it.
Gotcha.
But down there in that same area, we're going to put in a new dispatch. Dispatch was put in at the Chaves County building right after they built it, and it's a fairly small area. Well, our needs have grown almost exponentially.
They've outgrown their home right now.
So, and they do a great job in the area they have. It's jam-packed with all the latest and greatest communications equipment, so they can make sure that first responders get out and do what they need to do. So anyway, and that means the city and the county, we work together with Pecos Valley Regional Dispatch, and we are working together to develop a new space for them. So we hired the architect, or the commissioner said, yes, you can accept their proposal to design this new area. Now we'll put together a team which will include people from the dispatchers, because they're the ones obviously that know what they need. We'll have some of our staff on there because we know what the law is as far as purchasing and making sure we do it right, and overseeing the project. We have to have our people in on that, but we definitely want to make sure that the design is the best that we can afford to do, because it may have to last them another 20 years. So we want to make sure that that's a good thing. We'll have a representative from the city on that, because it is a community-wide project, the Pecos Valley Regional Communication. So we want to make sure that they're in the loop, we're in the loop, our building department's in the loop, the procurement department, and of course dispatch is in the loop to make sure that gets done.
Sure. A lot of moving parts there.
Yeah. And same thing on, we got a design professional services for a public health office. And I'm real proud of that because we talked about this previously on the radio, all this CARES Act money and stuff. 50 years from now, if someone remembers, they're going to say, yeah, I remember once my dad got $1,200 from the government and he went out and bought an ATV.
Yeah.
And I think he wrecked it after a year, and it's a long gone. And if anything, nothing more than a story. Well, the county looked at it like this, this is a remarkable amount of money that's going out and we have no choice in the matter. It's going out. Our grandchildren, our great grandchildren will be paying this debt back in 20 or in 50 years. And we said, rather than just flitter that away on things that there's no example of in 50 years, we believe that a brick and mortar building, something that we're required to provide as a health department, public health department. Now, we don't provide their administrative department, which they lease currently, but we do provide the health department where the doctors, nurses can take care of people and their problems.
Space.
Exactly. And so we're required by law to do that. And so we said, what better thing to do than to build a new health department or repair the other, however it's going to work out.
Give them
we're
the
not
resources
100%
to
sure.
grow
but 50
and continue.
years from now, that'll still be here, and we've actually accomplished something for our community rather than
did something
just throwing money
good
out the
with that
window.
one.
Which unfortunately I believe a lot of the
and that
the stimulus has been just that.
And that probably lines up more with the spirit of what it's for versus what people did with it.
Right. And so I'm real proud to work for Chaves County where that's the way that they think, that we need to provide something long term and not just frivolous expense.
Sure.
So we approved ASA Architects, which is a local architecture firm. They are in other places in the state, but they also have an office here.
Okay.
And so we're really anxious to work with them. They've helped us on other projects. And so we're really looking forward to moving on that.
So look for more to come on that facility here as progress is made there, obviously.
So are we running short, or we
we're running a little short, but we can. Okay. We got time for a little bit more.
Wrap it up quickly. Okay. So we also had Charles Eastless, the undersheriff. He came forward and asked for the Law Enforcement Protection Fund application to be approved. Every year they put in an application for a grant to get a lot of stuff that they need. It can be anything from ammunition to bulletproof vest. I don't know what the proper terminology is. There's a lot of things that they can buy with the Law Enforcement Protection Fund. Very specific things, but there are a lot of things they can do.
But things they need to protect their officers.
And to do their job. And so every year they bring that forward and say, can we turn this in? Are you guys in agreement? And the commissioners, of course, 5-0 said, yes, turn that in, do that. So
wasn't much debate there needed.
And let's see, I think that's pretty much everything that we did. Permission to publish for the 2022 public road hearing. As I said, the freeholders looked at the roads. Now the next step of that is going to be, there will be a public hearing at the April meeting. People can come in and say, I'm in favor, I'm against. The people that turned in the applications come in and say, the reason I'm asking is for this. And the commissioners don't make a decision. They just have the public hearing, and then they go out probably in the following week and actually physically look at the roads themselves, just like the freeholders did. And then they come back in May and say, okay, we've heard the public hearing, we've heard what the freeholders said, and we've been out to the roads, and now we're going to make a decision.
Here's our final decision. Very good. So basically 2 big steps left in that process.
And then the last thing that we did was a request for out-of-state travel. This guy that works for the county named Bill Williams asked if he could go to Nebraska to a 30 by 30 summit. And I've told you in the past, we're working to try to figure out what the government's plan is to withdraw 30% of the nation's lands and waters by the year 2030. Again, turn them into wilderness areas, off limits, whatever. We're trying to figure out what that means.
Okay.
We've got the governor of Nebraska is going to speak there. There's several senators and representatives, U.S. senators, representatives, other states coming together because we're all saying, the bulk of these lands are in the West. People in the East, like they generally do, don't have federal lands, but they're the ones telling us what's going to happen. And we already have 60% of Chaves County out of our control. Do you want that's not the land you want. You
Right.
want an additional 30%. We need to get to the bottom of it. So we're having a summit there with many people, not just
Sure.
from the western states, but from all over the U.S. will join there and try to explain what our issues are and
Sure.
try to get the answers that we need to move forward or
Sure.
stop it, whichever way it goes.
Would join together so they can fight back some of these things.
Oh.
Makes sense.
But
Very good.
That's
So-
it. Thank you for having me again.
Anytime, as always, appreciate it. Now, don't forget the county commission meeting for April will be moved up a week.
Yes, I believe it's the 14th, but I don't have a calendar in
It's
front
the
of me.
second Thursday of the month instead
Correct.
of the third.
Yeah.
So we'll make a note, and then we're going to, of course, have Bill
Yeah.
back the next day.
Yeah, and then the special meeting on Monday.
Yes.
So if you
and those are both open to the public.
they are all up. Yeah, we Open Meetings Act. We always make sure that they're advertised and people can come out and hear what we have to say. And there's often times for public comment. It just depends on what kind of meeting it is. But
Yeah.
2:00 on Monday. So
Yeah, these meetings are all open to the public. Only time they're not is when the commission has to go in to talk personnel or talk any legal proceedings.
yeah.
But past that, everything's public. So.
and even in those closed sessions like that, no decisions can be made.
Right.
You can only discuss pending or threatened litigation or limited personnel matters. There's only a short list of things that you can actually discuss, union negotiations, things like that. But you can't make a decision. That has to be done publicly.
Done
So,
on the record.
Yeah.
So very good. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
visit as always. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you here in April.
Yep. My wife and I are going dancing tomorrow. We're going to the Elks, I think, is having a fundraiser. And
Oh, nice.
she's a singer, so I don't usually get to dance because she's up there doing it. So I sit there and tap my toe and wish I could.
So now you got a dance partner.
So I got a
now.
dance partner.
Oh,
Score.
nice. Good for you. Well, enjoy.
Thank you.
Don't come in with a broken leg or nothing.
Not that old. I'm not going to break a hip.
I don't know if you tried pulling a difficult dance move and didn't go.
Oh, no. Mine's pretty basic stuff.
I keep it right here. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.